Well, hello there. My name is Sean, and this is Robots, Detectives, and Spies. Today we're talking about Final Reckoning. Yeah, let's talk about this film. The big takeaway, the Toulon didn't read, is I was hoping for something better. The previous film was shot during COVID. There was a ton of issues with them trying to be in compliance and all that kind of stuff, and just wasn't a fun time to make a movie. And Um, I was thinking that since the sequel was delayed a little bit, that they were going to be, we're talking Dead Reckoning here versus Final Reckoning, that they would maybe be able to like fix some of the weird logic gaps and sort of less than compelling stuff was in the previous film. If anything, a lot of the issues from the previous films, the previous film, Dead Reckoning versus Final Reckoning, man, part one and two is dumb, but Dead versus Final Reckoning might be dumber, and that's a whole other thing. That's no somebody's fault. That isn't necessarily the writers, but yeah. So it has horrible issues with exposition. It has a lot of issues with editing. The writing is all over the place. We'll get to that. The motivations of specific characters isn't great. Actually, the motivation of most characters isn't great, but that's a whole other thing. There's a lot of issues with just basic logic. The set pieces. All right, let's say this film was like laughably bad, but at least if it's like when I mean laughably bad in terms of like Hollywood base level bad, but like it had like decent car chases and stuff. Like I don't know, Quantum of Solace is pretty rough, and the filmmaking is a little bit makes it hard to see the action, but like it's sort of like there's action, whatever no one watches a Bond film for an intricate plot. Set pieces. Yeah, and then just a bunch of random cameras and retcons. So that gives you kind of like my hierarchy of problems. Number one is the exposition. This film is like some of the clumsiest exposition I've seen in a theater in a while. I've seen worse on TV and all that stuff, but like in a theater, some of the clumsiest exposition I've ever seen. I don't know what happened. It feels like they panicked after the financial disappointment was the last film. They didn't cut the budget. It just seems like they almost kind of like pretended no one saw. I mean, no, the numbers. Like it got beat out by like um, Oppenheimer and Sound of Freedom and Barbie. Like it was a bad year for a Mission Impossible film. They've never been like crazy films, but like Fallout did really good numbers wise, and so there was after that and Top Gun there was a lot of speculation they would do crazy at the box office. It did not. It was pretty middling in terms of that. So it almost feels like someone got a note that like nobody's seen the previous film. Just put all of the exposition about the basic workings of the plot, including shots and scene, random cutaways and stuff from the previous movies in this movie, so that we can catch the audience up like they don't own Amazon Prime and didn't watch the film the night before. I didn't do that. I'm usually pretty good about remembering films, but that previous film is structured really clumsily, and this film is worse. But we'll get to that. So yeah, the exposition, every like out of this film, there is no scenes of just characters. Like man, there were scenes in previous movies where like just characters would be sitting down at a cafeteria and just be like hanging out. Like you said at the end of the film, or there was conversations, or there would be a story about like Jeremy Renner thinking he killed or accidentally allowed Tom Cruise's wife in the third film to be killed. It was like a character moment. There's not a ton of that in this film. There's a few character moments, but like they're incredibly clumsy. It's like every single scene in this film is a character expositing the outline of the plot. So with a lot of redundancies. Like this is not like a fantasy world. This is not uh, like a very complicated sci-fi thriller. It's like it comparison like it has like it makes like Tenet look like a silent film. At least in Tenet had some really clumsy like like exposition sequences, but then it also has like pretty decent set pieces. The story was really convoluted because it was like a Nolan going nuts and trying to make a film about time travel, going backwards and linearity and all that kind of stuff, and scenes would play from multiple different angles. So that's a clumsy film for like exposition. A lot of it didn't necessarily make sense, but maybe if you sat down and thought about it, you might be like, whatever. This is like we're talking about AI controlling like missiles. It's not simple in the sense, but it's like compared to like all this stuff in the series, it's like AI has really black and white motivations. There's no need for like I said, compared to like Dune, like the '84 film where you have like a character explaining something, then like a slideshow. It's not an actual slideshow, it's like a book or something. Then a character walks in, explains some more things, and you cut to some other character, some other scenes with other characters also explaining things. It's like it's kind of almost charming in that film because of the weird line delivery, and it's a David Lynch film. It's very weird. Some of the places it goes are just out there. This is like just it's 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 really talented people punching below their weight, and I'm not sure. Especially it's called like Final Reckoning. It's like worse than the previous film. That film, a lot of people had a lot of mixed feelings on. I didn't like it. I I'd say in hindsight, it's better than this one in the sense that like the train sequence, there was like a car chase. It was kind of all right. There was some decent stunts, whatever. So, anyways, the editing, that's the next on this list. That is just oh, it's like a clip show from like a network television show where they're like, oh, we've run out of money, and it's like you watch like a show and it's like, remember that time, like they're like having a picnic and they go like, remember that time when we fought the wizard, and they're like showing the whole like bunch of random shots from that time they fought the wizard. It's like, yeah, that's almost as crazy as that time that we robbed a bank, all that stuff, whatever show that would be. But anyways, it's just they're showing just random like, oh, MI2, now it's MI3. Oh, look, there's a bit of like the last movie. Oh, no, there's that guy from like Fallout, and it's like, or just like there's a scene where like he's like attached to like a VR headset, and the AI showing him like his own life, including stuff that he didn't see, and there were no cameras there. It's a whole thing. It's like movies sometimes have that issue where like uh, like a multi-camera like security footage where like, oh wow, there's a really cinematic security camera, all that kind of stuff. But it's not as much the fact that they're cutting back to previous films, almost like it's a trailer, like, 30 years ago the first movie came out, and now this movie is the final chapter of whatever. It's like it's more the fact that it just happens so much throughout the whole film. They also cut back to like this random thing that supposedly happened in the 90s that is why he joined the force. He got framed for murder of a woman from the villain of this and the previous film. They don't explain much of it. They explain a lot of other things that did not need to be explained, but they don't explain that. That's new. I don't know what's going on with that. So the editing's terrible. There's also just like flashbacks of stuff you've already seen. Like 30 seconds ago, they'll do flashbacks to that. They'll do flashbacks to earlier points in the film. They'll do like these weird like cross cutting that just messes up the space time, where it's sometimes hard to tell where you're at. Where you see him like talking to one character, you're talking to another character, and they're almost like cross cutting between them. Like it would be clever if you could figure out what was going on, but it's really convoluted oh, that's weird. I can see myself. It's mirrored. It's like I'm holding the pen in the sand. It's not great. The writing, it ties back into the exposition thing. Everything there's characters. Okay, spoilers. You've been warned. There's like characters that die in this film that are like significant to like the series, like Luther, who's been there from the beginning. I don't know if he's sick in real life. It was really weird. He's like got like a terminal illness they don't explain. Um, there's just weird issues where every single scene in this film is explained to you like the outline of the plot with a very few exceptions. There's very few scenes of just characters talking. There's very few scenes just about characters. When I would say, with the exception of maybe like one's pretty plot driven, but there's a lot of like it's like lean and mean plot driven kind of a thing. But there's still like character there. Two is weird, but even that I'd say there's probably still more character development in two. Three is probably more character. It's like unnecessary character development. Like I don't know if he necessarily needs to have like a wife and they go into parties and trying to like to a like a his wife throws like a housewarming party or something like that. It's been a while since I've seen that and all that stuff. It tries to add there's really good performances and back and forth, and the conversation between him and Ving Rhames is really interesting in that film. He also has connections to other people he like trained and stuff. And that's the first one Simon Pegg's in, which is the way he explains like the MacGuffin or the plot device is really good. The writing ties in a lot of stuff, including that film. They try to explain the rabbit's foot to be like a hard drive. Don't care. There's tons of just conveniences that don't add. Sometimes the convenience can be fine. I'm even fine with some level of like I don't know what you call it, stupidity. It just compounds and death by a thousand cuts. Character motivations aren't great. That's my next point. The main character's motivations are the same as all the previous films. He's a real stand up guy. He likes saving the world, whatever. There are a lot of characters you're not sure why they specifically are there. Like the alliances shifted in between the two movies. Maybe there's some subtle things at that. Maybe in the first film, if you could describe the first film as subtle, but like Haley Atwell's character, I think she's like a thief. For some reason, she was really important in the first of these two films, and she's still kind of hanging around, but she's not like I don't know. It's her own. It's a kind of film where it's a series where her motivations shouldn't matter, especially compared to Elsa, where her motivations were like she was like a double agent and kind of sort of shifts over to their side and all that stuff, and it's a whole thing. All the characters, the motivations, all that stuff. It's like Ving Rhames even. His character is actually really interesting in terms of like his alliances, especially in the first film, and he kind of becomes like a buddy after that. I don't remember if he's in two. I think maybe he's a cameo in two. It's been a while since I've seen two. I think you might run into him at the end, kind of like he does in a few of the other ones, but he's pretty much in every one of them. But yeah, it's just the writing, man. It's the motivations, all that stuff. It's really rough in ways that shouldn't. Did that door just close? That's weird. Shouldn't be an issue for this series. All that kind of stuff. Hey, okay, gotcha. Didn't know if it was the ghost. Anyways, it's door open and closing over there. Motivations and you got like issues with basic logic. So many things where they'll set things up and then they'll like directly contradict it in ways that you can do that in ways that's interesting, and sometimes writers write themselves in a corner and try to like figure out how to get themselves out of that same corner. It's a thing that happens in this film. Like I said, spoilers. Um, I like submarine movies, and there's a whole sequence of something that's kind of fun. It's really dumb how he gets himself out of the situation. He gets stuck in the submarine, starting to get the AI code. Code. It's compiled. I don't know if they're going to decompile it. That's a thing you can do, but that would be a ton of processing power. I'm not sure what's exactly supposed to happen there because it's like a portable device. And if he's using like an Intel compute stick or whatever he's doing there. But in order to try to get off the submarine, he tries to get out, and his suit can't fit. So he like cuts off his diving suit, basically just in his shorts, and then he puts that into the tube. He's able to get out with all that. Then he loses his helmet and his scuba tank. It's a specialized suit, so he like it's like reduced compression time when he gets back to the surface. That stuff is terrifying, and Anytime I watch a movie about like deep sea exploring, that stuff is terrifying. The bends, all that stuff. That stuff is terrifying. See, basically, in a speedo, just floats his way up, drowns because hydrothermia doesn't completely drown because of that. Gets cut out, and then they put him in a decompression tank, and he's fine. A lot of movies have stuff like that. It's just weird for this series. Um, just the way they handled that. I figured they would do something more of a twist. Not you're just invincible. I guess that's cool. That you can be like that. I thought he was gonna like turn the submarine on and go up that way. I don't that wouldn't have technically fixed the issue, but it's more plausible. Maybe if it had oxygen on there, or he could stay in his suit, he could just gone right up. He plugs a submarine into like a portable battery, and that's more than enough to turn all the lights on. I don't know what I. It's cool that they had a standard Russian submarine plug on his USB power bank. That's great. You always gotta love to see that. Yeah, like I said, there's all that stuff. So basic logic. The set pieces in this are there's a few of them. They're almost like they wanted to do their own version of like the Hunt for Red October, but really, really dumb. Hunt for October is a great film. It's directed by the guy that did Die Hard and Predator and stuff. He did all three of those films, and then did a film that some people like, some people don't like, and then I think he got. I was gonna say canceled. He did something illegal that isn't as bad as what people get canceled for, but it kind of like you're not working this town ever again, kind of a thing. Yeah. So the set pieces, they're not good enough for how bad the writing is. The set pieces aren't quite worth the payoff. If you like the film, it's probably because of the set pieces. Some of them are like the stuff with the Russians, whatever. It's just because the villain's motivations are so convoluted. The film isn't hard to follow because it's really predictable. You can kind of see the basic tropes happening, but I don't know if it like logically follows. So you're not like, oh, that's how that happens. It's like, yeah, that was in the realm of possibilities, but it's not being like motivated by anything. Does it make it bad? Um, I would say like it's there's nothing in here in terms of like basic logic that's so egregious that like there isn't like a worse example. Oh no, I would say yeah, no, that's not true. That suit thing is really dumb. It's not just the suit thing; it's all the stuff that led up to that. Was like these really thin margins. Yeah, it's not as much any individual thing as like it's the all of them put together. And because so much of the film is exposition, that's what you're kind of left with. Is that bad? If it works for you, that's great. It doesn't work for me. Spy thrillers tend to be more. They're like noir films where you do some basic setup and then you kind of get into the world and you kind of explore. Um, the original Harry Palmer film, The Empress. Actually, there's a Harry Palmer film. It's not very good, but it's about computers, and that was back in the late '60s. Like this is not a unique premise. There's even films about computers taking over nuclear bombs. I'm getting off track here, but anyways, especially a lot of those would have two computers going against each other, which would have been like person of interest or something. Anyways, which actually was a lot of carryover because J.J. Abrams is J.J. Abrams, and a lot of the people worked. There's some carryover between two of them. I have some issues with that show, but I'm not going to get into that here. Just it's hard to put into words. You have to see it. It's just I didn't turn my timer back on. It's really it's tough. If you're a fan of the series, you might as well see it because it might be the last one. In terms of box office, I can't imagine this film doing well. Oh, maybe overseas where the dialogue would get butchered in translation anyways. That kind of Fast and Furious, Transformers, Jurassic Park, those kind of films tend to do better overseas. I don't think the last one did. It was like I think 500 million total, which is not amazing for the budget. This I really don't understand what's. I mean, Tom Cruise is probably one of the few draws that are left in the industry, like him and Keanu Reeves, but they don't push the John Wick films a ton. And the last Matrix film didn't make money, which is, if I'm not maybe it did, but I wouldn't spend like the kind of money on a Matrix sequel, but they're even spending on this. It's a lot. Yeah, I would almost just take like the budget of the original film and just adjust it for inflation and work within your means, and then hope that the built-in fan base would. Yeah, I mean, things have gotten more expensive, but you know what I'm saying. It's just there's just so much here. Like if you're new to the series, the exposition is what's gonna would get you. Like, and especially if this is the first film you've seen, like even compared to the last one, it's more clumsy in the way it does. And the last one was clumsy. Like I think I thought the last one was my. I don't know if I would say it's worse than like two, because two has unique issues that, but two shorter. It's dumb in fun ways. It's like it's John Woo. You know, he's made some really good movies, but you know, like Hard Boiled, all that stuff. But he's also made some really dumb movies. But he knows how to make a dumb movie fun. Where this is not like a dumb fun. It's not like laugh out. Well, there's a couple of scenes where they're kind of like funny, but kind of in an unfortunate way. Like you're not laughing with the film. I don't know if that's probably well in the second half of the film. Yeah, and it's just it doesn't the plot. It's so plot heavy that the film's not served by the characters aren't served by how plot heavy the film is. There's so many characters in this film, so many people with names and speaking roles. Um, it's having an AI as a villain in like the Ocean's 11 films. Typically, the villain does something to a side character, which gets them all to kind of rally around and like take the villain out financially by going after one of his casinos. So that there's almost kind of like a Robin Hood-ish kind of thing happening. The difference with this is like if sorry, a difference with this would the similar parallel be is I don't know, like there's an AI running a casino and it's like, oh no, it's gonna take over Vegas or something. Could that be interesting? It could be executable, but it's still like as on a point of comparison would not be as compelling as them, like you know, especially if it's like those guys. They pick old actors you like an old comedian. So like this guy threw a guy off a roof, and then now we're gonna go rob his casino. You know, if he would killed him, that would have been a different thing. But like, it's a different kind of oh, thing where make takes away from whatever, and it's like all the previous villains were more like villainous. The guy in the first film betrayed everybody. You know, the guy in the second film is kind of a psychopath. The guy in the third film is like a mastermind. I don't remember what the dude in the fourth film was doing. He was kind of almost more incidental, but he still was like a character. You could talk to him. They were trying to get to him. The guy in the fifth and Fallout, yeah, Fallout, and yeah, is also a like he's like a shadow version of like their organization. He's creating like the evil MI5, and he's really smart and does stuff that actually like it's movie logic, but it's a logic of sorts, you know. And it's like these last two. Also, Henry Cavill was like the second villain in Fallout. It's just it's a lot of it's like even a retread. The whole final sequence is a retread of Fallout, but made dumber in ways that if you like, there's some silly stuff in all these other films, but they're kind of like intentional, tongue in cheek, silly, like a sniper rifle made out of a flute or something, or you hear like a gun sound when Henry Cavill gets ready to like punch somebody, or at least he does the kind of. I don't know if you hear the sound, but it might have been in the trailer, and just like him pretending to be knocked out, and that whole sequence was also kind of goofy, but like it fit his character. I don't know if I would have made that creative choice, but it like fits his character. It doesn't bother me that much. Um, man, that fault, man. You go from one set piece of them jumping out of the airplane to a set piece of them trying to find somebody to a set piece of them finding people in a bathroom to a set piece of them finding people over here. Then that goes to another thing, then another thing, another thing, and it's like set piece after set piece after set piece. Then there's like intrigue on the side. Then you got this character doing that. You got this character doing that. It's like, oh gosh, it's like these are crowd pleasers. Like, why are we why are we cutting to like a bunch of generals in a room talking to the president? You can do that, but like it's not what this series is. Like we were very much staying with Ethan for most of them. The other ones, the cutaways are to add to like, oh, maybe maybe the real bad guy is Ethan, whatever. And it's like, yeah. So AI, not something I would have done. It's like I said, it's like having AI run a casino in Ocean's 11. You could do that. It's just kind of lame. Sometimes, even if it's more modern and contemporary, sometimes staying within the vein of the original series, like the Bond films have that issue. You could do an AI, but you do a hacker would be better because you can punch a hacker in the face. Yeah, it'd be like having James Bond go up against Satan. He's like ethereal. He doesn't exist on the same plane of existence. So then he would have to be like, what is he gonna do? Um, like it might be too weird of an example, but it's like you can't. The, like an AI is not a literal being. It doesn't have like conventional motivations. You can't fill in gaps in the same way that you could do with a generic terrorist or something like that. And yeah, it loses a lot. Like the threading the needle. It's the whole point of the series. Okay. There's so much threading the needle, but it's not the good kind of threading the needle in this film, where it's more like things got to line up perfectly. Not exactly sure why they have to line up perfectly. Why it's just like this guy's doing a thing. Like the submarine, we can't get a hold of it. We're just gonna do this and this and that. And the Russians also, it's like really convoluted. There's so many moving pieces. Where the first film is convoluted, but like it feels like you could figure it out. And I didn't struggle with it the first time I saw it. I think on rewatch, I probably agree that it's hard to know who did what at different parts, but it's convoluted in a way like an old Noir film would be convoluted. Like, who killed that guy? Nobody knows, but maybe this guy did, whatever. Where this one, it's like, it's convoluted as in they're explaining every single thing as it's happening. Multiple characters intercutting between multiple different characters, and you're like, I would have made that choice. If anything, if it was kind of confusing in ways you had to fill in the gaps, it might have been better. Anyways, takeaway. I don't think it's an improvement on the last one. I uh, I have a hard time recommending these two films. The rest of the series, with the exception of two, pretty fun. I got some issues with three that it's been a while since I've seen them. Maybe I don't would feel the same way. But all the rest of the series, like they're different tonally, different directors, pretty fun. But yeah, this one, exposition, editing, writing, motivation, basic logic, the set pieces, the random cameos of people, like who are you not gonna bring back? You've set the precedent that you bring back a random dude. Like you can bring every mark back in the series, every boss, every whatever. Maybe like if you're gonna bring in like a random character as a president, maybe you could have like I don't know some guy playing like a maybe Lawrence Fishburne will be president in the next film, or Anthony Hopkins like the prime minister or something. Or actually, the prime minister was in the series. A different prime minister was in the series, which was kind of fun in a previous film. And then it's just the cameos and the retcons. They're not great. You really don't need to tie all these films together. They were episodic up until a point, and even those films that Rogue Nation and Fall to connect together, they're mostly episodic. Fallout less than Rogue Nation, but it could have stopped at Rogue Nation and been a complete story. Fallout benefits from Rogue Nation, but it is its own story. If it had been, for example, the first film in a series, it kind of functions. Um, you don't necessarily have to have seen Rogue Nation. It you benefit a lot, like the relationships and stuff. But for some reason, this film refuses to hit the ground running in the same way that Fallout did, um, uh, which is just really strange. All these films should hit the ground running. The first film technically hit the ground running. Had a little bit of a like, let's do what the original television series did, but then kind of subvert that and make it a different style film altogether. But it's a guy on the run film. You kind of go like this. He's disavowed. It's a formality at this point. Every one of them, he's going to be disavowed. They even say he has never followed orders. I don't believe that. I think he was under orders. I think he was disavowed in two. Yeah, I don't think he was disavowed in two. There's a few of these he wasn't disavowed in. He just had a really bad time. At least one. I don't think he was disavowed in two. I could be wrong about that. That movie's weird. A lot of weird stuff happens. The car is spinning. The John Wooisms, all that stuff. Yeah, I think I'll put this out there. I think it's worse than two. Two's got unique issues that I probably dislike more. The whole thing with the Tandy Newton character and all that stuff is just bizarre. The fact that it rips off a pretty decent Hitchcock film without adding anything to actually two, North by Northwest and Notorious, both pretty great films. I could see referencing them. In fact, technically, the original series is a reference of sort because it shares an actor with North by Northwest, Martin Landau, who's also in the X Files film. But anyways, hopefully that was somewhat useful. I'm sure most people that are going to see the film are going to see the film, and if you like it, more power to you. I wish the series would have gone on a high note at least. Like Top Gun Maverick, or maybe they should have stopped at Fallout. I think highest box office, tons of critical praise. Everybody and their mother liked that film. Yeah, I don't know. So I mean, that film might have been Fallout, but I wonder what will the fall of this film be in terms of the future of the franchise and stuff. Maybe they'll bring back Jeremy Renner or something, like they tried to do with the Bourne series. Anyways, you have a good one. It's been Robots, Detectives, and Spies, and I'm Sean.